Yeah, so basically the bike blew up mid-holiday and then I parked it, and now that winter's coming I got some time to fix it. First off, we need to create a custom nut to loosen the rear. Then I lifted the bike up so the swing can move freely. Then I removed the engine and almost broke my arm. Then I quickly forgot about gravity, but the engine is hurt already. There's a crack in the case, so it doesn't matter. I always keep the habit to put everything back, so I don't forget where it goes. Then I tried to clean it a bit before disassembly, but I gave up because it was caked on pretty good, and it doesn't matter because I'm gonna take it apart completely anyway, so I will probably pressure wash it. This brake clean is really bad. It doesn't do shit. I always try to keep everything that goes together so I don't lose it, and I know if there's like a spacer in there, I remember to put the spacer back in. Next, I'm gonna remove the ignition system. And the bike is filled with water because of removing the head. So the cooling jacket is around there, and it went into the cylinder. But there was quite a moment ago because I wanted to know what was actually wrong with the engine so I can order replacement parts. That's why the engine was already partially disassembled. I quickly checked the gearbox and stuff, everything seemed fine. And the engine only has around 8,000 kilometers, so it's pretty new, but it had its time. There was a big stroke or big bore cylinder on it, and it revved a bit too high for the original crank. That's why you can see so much bearing material. It absolutely destroyed the crank. You can see there are some plastic gears in there, but they are just for the counter mass. So this is to cancel vibrations, which really helps with single cylinder engines. Next, I'm gonna remove the water pump because I want to change some seals in there. As you can see, there was like a cream on it. That's just a mix of water and oil. So I know the seals are going out there. I will change most of the bearings just because I'm in there, and they're really cheap to get, like $100 for all the bearings. But some will be left out because I can't get them out, and why change them if they're alright, or why do the work to change them if they're still alright. As you can see, when I disassemble the gear train, I keep it by the side in the same order, because I don't like finding or searching for drawings and trying to get back how it went. So I just keep it together, then I can put it back in without having to watch something or search for a drawing. Next, I needed to do a puller for the ignition system. So I just grabbed the radius of the screw holes, and it was 3 screw holes. So if you go around with the radius, you can divide the circle into 6, and if you take every second point, you have 3 points to drill. Because I wasn't going to drill stainless steel and it was the only plate stock I had, I just used the plasma cutter. Then 1 hole in the center and grinding it down so you don't cut yourself. Then I welded the nut in the middle so I can turn a screw and pull it out. Sadly, I didn't film how the tool worked, but it worked. Then removing the crank, removing seals, removing bearings, and so on. More bearing material. It was a roller bearing with copper on the side, and the copper and the rolls of the bearing got sent through the engine. I always like to put everything on the table that I gotta put in, and then clean it up a bit and put it on a second tarp. Then start the assembly. Always use a bit of lube while assembling the engine, so your bearings don't seize up when you start it the first time. I will always like to check when I assemble something if it spins freely, or if not, that would be an indicator that you forgot something. And it's always better to check before instead of taking all apart again. Keep in mind, I'm not a professional. I just love to build engines and stuff. So yeah, some people might say hitting your crankshaft damages it, but as long as you don't hit them too hard, it should be fine. Yeah. Also, if you buy a crankshaft somewhere and it comes with a bearing, I knew it was used, but always make sure to just change the bearing so you know it will be good. This one, I first thought it was good, but it was the wrong size, so that's why the crank didn't go in. I didn't know how that happened. Normally you shouldn't have to use silicone on the seal. I just oil them up a bit so they can suck up the oil and expand a bit, and then I close the engine and it should be fine. Most of the time it is fine. Although I will later come back to this, sometimes you have to use silicone. Then I put the stator back in, and this was stupid because you can't put the rotor on it if you put the ignition trigger on first. So I had to remove it again, put it back. And I put back all the gears in the drivetrain. This is the shift, not the shift fork, but the shift actuator. Another seal. And then the clutch basket. In this bike you don't have to screw down the clutch basket, most of the time you have to. Here you can just take it out. So in this video we're gonna put back the cylinder on it and make the block ready for putting in the bike. And in the next video we're gonna have a look at I use a smart carb on the engine, and you can't really get intakes for that. So I 3D printed one in TPU, and you're gonna see how I made that work. And putting it back in the bike and first run, maybe first drive, depending on how warm it gets. We're still in winter here, so no bike driving. Then I put the piston back in. There's most of the time on 2 strokes a small arrow on the piston that's pointing to the exhaust, so make sure you choose the right direction. Also in the piston clips, they have for the rod pin, I guess it's called. There are clips on it. The opening of the clips should always point to the crank, so straight down. And what's really important, I did that before, but you should check the piston ring clearance or piston ring gap. You can quickly Google that, how it's done, and then you will be informed. It's different from engine to engine, but you have to watch it because the piston rings most of the time are not the correct gapping. I forgot to film when I gapped it, but you can blow your engine up quickly if you don't. Also, the cylinder head on these bikes shouldn't be over torqued. This can lead to the cylinder deforming and not being round anymore, which leads to increased friction and just more wear and tear. Then I checked the gap in the top end, so how much space there is between the piston and the head. I go to around 0.7 to 1 millimeter. This is also because the expansion of the materials is different. I don't want it to hit the head. Thanks for watching. See you next time.